scaling is all about mindset. And for me, I had to sit down and be like, well, why do I want to scale? What is my goal at the end of the day? So I really looked at those goals and kind of worked back and scaled according to what that end goal is. And I feel like once you have the final destination in sight, you can work backwards to really define what those milestones are, to get to that end goal.
Welcome to the How to Scale Commercial Real Estate Show. Whether you are an active or passive investor, we'll teach you how to scale your real estate investing business into something big.
Christine Hsu is a former R&D food scientist and researcher turned real estate investor. She started with a single-family rental and then very quickly scaled to multifamily. Christine, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Sam, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Pleasure's mine. There's 3 questions I ask every guest who comes on the show in 90 seconds or less. Can you tell me, where did you start? Where are you now? And how did you get there?
Yes. So I started my career as a food scientist, as you mentioned in the intro, and then wasn't feeling the corporate world. So went into real estate and brought me a lot of freedom for myself and my family. Now I'm moving into multifamily, looking not just at multifamily, really commercial real estate, and expanding and hopefully diversifying from there. So.
Got it. Now, a food scientist. I mean, what is a food scientist?
If you go to the store on the shelves, there's a lot of manufactured foods. Behind all of that is the technical part of a food scientist that formulates those food products to make it scalable and can be mass produced. So that's my background. There's a lot of engineering, biology, chemistry behind that. And so my specialty when in my career was actually a sensory scientist. So I studied how people perceived, how they experienced food through their 5 senses and measured it through statistics and research. So it was really interesting.
I'm sure it is. So you were part of the team responsible for making that awesome lime flavor on those Tostitos lime chips that
yes.
Probably has no lime in it, I'm assuming, but certainly tastes like lime.
Yeah, it has lime flavors that are extracted from actual limes, but they put it into a powder and they spray it onto the chips. So yes.
That's just wild and crazy. I love it. Very, very cool. But you said, hey, I'm not loving this. Let's get into real estate. What gave you the real estate bug?
Yeah. So, I loved what I did. I just didn't like the corporate culture. Just being in a corporate environment, it felt a little bit to me like stifling. It was just, had to show up to work every day, 8 to 5 at least, if not more, when you had projects that required more attention. And even on the slower days where there's less projects, you still had to show up 8 to 5. So I feel like there wasn't as much flexibility. And really what hit the nail on the head was when I had kids, young kids. I was like, I would rather be at home watching my, 6-month-old play than be here and do this stuff. So I decided, actually, I asked myself, I was like, well, what can I do where I can still replace my income, bring home income to my family, but still have that flexibility, and landed on real estate. Actually, a lot of arrows pointed to real estate as being an advantage, including tax benefits that also, brought a huge benefit to our family. So that's kind of how I landed there.
How long did it take you to go from single family to multifamily?
It took it was a little bit of both, because when I became a single family investor, I did the burst strategy. In parallel to that, I was also investing as a limited partner alongside all the active stuff that I was doing with rehabs and leasing and all that stuff. I had set aside money to put to work on the passive side as a limited partner so that, that can make me money too. So it was a parallel path. I would say I was always involved in commercial, and really I had the intention of going that direction, but wanted to watch from the sidelines first to see the big time experts, how they run their show. And then it took about maybe a year to about a year and a half before I said, okay, I'm going to go active into syndications and multifamily.
Gotcha. That's really cool. I love that. Tell me, if you have a background in, measuring how people perceive and taste food, right? Like that's a very nuanced skill. what are some parallels you see in between what you learned as a food scientist, doing what you did there, to how you approach your multifamily investments? Are there any parallels?
There are definitely parallels because I think both meet the basic need of human beings. You've got food and you've got shelter. And I like to focus on those. You invest in things that will change lives. I think that was something that I heard recently, a quote. And they are things that we need. So I feel like recently now I'm starting to raise some capital for some larger deals. It's all about meeting a need. And I feel like there are a lot of people out there who are, making decent incomes. They don't have time to be active investors, but they do want to invest passively. And all they know is the stock market. So no one's really told them that they have other opportunities beyond that in alternative assets. And I've met a lot of investors where, it's the need that's already inside of them. I said, hey, look, you can invest in real estate and have all the advantages of real estate. And do it passively while you focus on your career still, and not have to be so hands-on. You don't have to be flipping houses and changing out toilets. You can do this on the side and still get really great returns. And I've had a lot of investors, convert to being an LP very, very quickly, and just, a couple of meetings. These are people that I know personally who ask, what are you doing now? And I tell them I invest in real estate, and I actually allow others to invest with me. And they're like, oh yeah, tell me more. So I feel like there's some parallels there because there's a need that is being met, whether it's food, housing, or just having additional investment opportunities to bring in passive income and even bring wealth, generational wealth and a legacy to their families.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some challenges that you have faced in scaling a commercial real estate portfolio?
Well, I think I started in 2020, and the real estate world has seen a lot of very high ups, and now we're kind of going on the downside. Some of the challenges I face is just the volatility of the market just in the time that I started. And I wouldn't say it's a challenge. You kind of just go with the flow. It's almost like you're in the rocky rapids, like choppy rapids of the waters. You kind of just have to, cling on and go with the waves. And so really, there's things that I feel like is a little bit less stable, although real estate is still very stable asset, but just the ups and downs. It's been a little bit challenging for me, someone who started newer, to kind of keep track of it. But it's also exciting too, because I get to see a lot happen. And really, even when the world is concerned, that's the best time. There's always opportunity in those kind of rocky moments. So I'm excited to be a part of it. And really, it's all about making sure that you're taking measured risks with contingency and building that into all of the underwriting.
When you say measured risk with contingency, what comes to mind when you say that?
So, the interest rates are going up substantially and very, very quickly. So it's making sure that the numbers are writing in higher interest rates, and having that sensitivity analyzer, really making sure if it goes like extremely high to like maybe 9%, 10%, what would that look like? And just being prepared for any scenario that happens. Like, I don't think that's going to happen really, just based on historical data. But, if it does, you never know. It's like no one has that crystal ball, but you have to be prepared for something like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tell me about, when I say the words how to scale, like what advice would you give to somebody? Or what advice would you give to yourself 2 or 3 years ago that you would say, hey, this is what I would do if I wanted to grow my commercial real estate portfolio as an active investor? What would you say?
Yeah. So for me, actually, it's a little bit different. It's about mindset. Scaling is all about mindset. And for me, I had to sit down and be like, well, why do I want to scale? What is my goal at the end of the day? So I really looked at those goals and kind of worked back and scaled according to what that end goal is. So it could be anything like, okay, for myself and my family, I want to cash flow $10,000 a month, or I want to expand my portfolio to, 1,000 units or $500 million of real estate assets under management. These are just goals. And I feel like once you have the final destination in sight, you can work backwards to really define what those milestones are, to get to that end goal. So for me, scaling is all about mindset. I think it's easy to just, keep going, but really not know where you're going, or I'm speaking for myself. So I really had to be very clear on what that end goal was.
Got it. I love that. When you set that end goal, so now you determined your why. Was there anything inside of you that said, that's not possible, or that's for somebody else, not me?
Oh, of course. I mean, limiting beliefs are just, it's natural. We always have them. And I definitely did. But I feel like for me, it's like surrounding myself with people who are already there really helped me get there, to say, yeah, it's daunting. I might just be starting out or newer in the business. But if they can do it and they're alongside kind of helping out and I'm asking them for advice, I could get there too. And probably in a similar time frame, because I've been surrounded by so many people, just really talented, smart people who have gotten to their goals in just a few years. And I'm like, wow, how do they do it? And so it's just not being shy and really reaching out to them, being like, hey, how can I bring you value, and how can I just learn from you too?
Right. And that was my next question. How did you go and surround yourself with people? Did you just put a flag out that's, I want to surround myself with really cool, smart people that are kicking butt and taking names in real estate? Obviously, that's not what you did. What did you do?
No, I wish it was that easy, but these people don't have a lot of time to,
Right.
to talk to you if you just put out a flag. So for me, as I mentioned earlier, I started off being a limited partner in their deals. Even if I didn't have a lot of one-on-one time to ask them, like, small, silly questions, I just watched. I observed what they did, how they handled their business, how they acquired real estate, how they work with their investors, and learned from that. And of course, they have people on their team that are available, their investor relations team. You can ask them as many questions as you want. I feel like they're an open door, because essentially they have to be. So just utilizing their resources that are available for their investors, being one of their investors and learning from them was the easiest way that I was learning from them and observing.
Yeah, and it's funny. You and I took a similar path, to that. I came into commercial real estate like you did, first as a limited partner, and I recommended that countless times to people. Like, what's the first thing you do? It's like, well, if you have the capital, even if it's just 50 grand in one deal, do that. Get a front row seat and see how someone else already in the industry is handling their business, how they put out their deal decks, how they communicate, how they do webinars, how often they give, quarterly updates if they do live calls. Like what is their process, and get a feel. And you might find things in their process that are broken. You might be like, oh, I can do that better if I become an active sponsor. Or that's a really cool thing they did. Let me see if I can duplicate that. So that's, I think that's really cool. After you were a limited partner, what did you do next?
It was a lot of networking. It was joining, meetup calls. Thanks to Zoom, and even with the pandemic, everything went virtual. So everything is pretty much available. In LinkedIn, I was very active on LinkedIn. Really, if you're connected with one person, you're connected with almost everyone in this industry. So really just, reaching out to people that way through those channels, seeing if they have meetup groups online that meet, and then going from there. Once you join a meetup group and network there, then you meet so many others, and it just keeps going. It's, it's endless in terms of the possibilities of the people that you meet. And then they become very close friends and potential partners too. And so that was kind of how I expanded my learnings and scaled really my network in real estate.
How did you get your first deal done?
First real estate deal or first commercial deal?
First commercial real estate deal.
So that was actually recent. We only just closed, a month or so ago. And it was through networking. I had met this operator probably over a year ago, about a year and a half ago, at a conference. Just kept in touch with her. So the lead sponsors, there's a couple groups, but one of the main lead sponsors is an all-female group. And so obviously we bonded, being females in this industry. And we just kept in touch. Like every quarter we would check in to see how we're doing and if there's anything that we can help each other with. Almost became like pseudo accountability partners even. And then she and her team had an opportunity that they were under contract for and also raising funds. And I said, hey, I'd be happy to help you out and raise some money with you and join your team and also help with other activities, anything that you need help with. So that was the first deal that I joined as a co-GP on. And it's been great. And even from there, other team members and connecting with them kind of just expanded my network and my knowledge too.
No, that's really cool. I love that. And that's again, it goes back to those relationships. I think that you've been building, a year is it's a good amount of time to know somebody, but it does take sometimes years, to where
Right.
it's like, hey, we've known each other for a long time. Let's see if there's a chance for us to work together on something. So that's really, really fantastic. And I love the fact that this was just your first deal you got across the finish line, because this is very fresh for
Yes.
you. We get all sorts of guests on this podcast, or we get everybody from, hey, I just closed my first commercial deal a month ago, to, somebody else that might be like, hey, I've got $3 billion in assets under management. I mean, they're all on here. So I love that we get to explore kind of both sides of this, journey. Tell me, are there things that you would do differently on your next deal that you said, hey, this is the lesson I learned, I'm going to do it differently next time? And then if so, why?
I mean, for us, we are just growing our networks. We're growing our investor list. And I think for the next deal, like we're growing and expanding our deals as well. So this first deal was a 506B. We've done a couple others also in parallel. And now we're moving into the world of 506Cs where we can advertise. So I don't think that, I would really do anything differently per se. I think it's just a journey and a progression. But definitely in terms of learning, it's kind of like there's some things that I could do better in terms of investor relations and even the process, just to improve on the entire process and the experience for investors going forward. And I feel like with every deal, you learn a little bit of something new.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Is there a software? Is there a platform? Is there something that you are using when you're bringing investors on that you would recommend?
For most of my deals, they've been Syndication Pro. It's been a very user-friendly platform. It's aesthetically pleasing for both sides, on the sponsor side and the investor side, just to see everything clearly. You can see your distributions, whatever documents are housed there. It's just very clean. And then we're also exploring with another group, Invest Next. So just kind of comparing the different platforms. I wouldn't say I have a lot of experience with Invest Next because we're just starting out, but it's nice to kind of compare and contrast the different tools that are out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, and that's great. I think it's one of the things that is, if you're listening to this and you don't have, and we're not recommending one or another necessarily on this show, but if you don't have an investor platform, you got to get one. I mean, it's something that, it really ups your game. They're not terribly expensive, not relative compared to, the types of assets we're buying. It's not an expensive investment. So that's certainly
Yes.
a cool thing. I'm glad really to hear that out of the gate you were launching with a good platform there. That's so cool. Last question for you. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners that you can think of? You're like, hey, here's something that has been meaningful to me in the last, I guess 2 years or so of your commercial real estate journey.
Yes, absolutely. For me, just starting out in real estate, it seems like a very daunting thing, especially as you see everyone scaling at 100 miles an hour and you're kind of a newbie. Like that was me, right? I'm just like, how do these people do it? And really what changed my mindset and perspective was the book called Who Not How. It's very popular in our space. I think a lot of people recommend that book, and I do as well. It's a whole mindset shift. It's not about how to do something because we're so limited in our knowledge. I was very limited. I didn't have the experience, obviously, but leveraging people who do. So I feel like in syndications, the big keyword is leverage, right? Everyone's leveraging each other. It's a team sport. Everyone's working together. So for me, it was leveraging people who had more experience than me to get me where I wanted to be, as opposed to just figuring out how to do it. It's just, finding the who's that can get me there.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Christine, thank you for taking the time to come on today. Certainly appreciate it. This was lots of fun learning about your journey thus far, getting your first deal done. Yeah, kudos to you. Keep up the good work. If our listeners want to get in touch with you and learn more about you and what it is you're doing, what is the best way to do that?
Yes, you can check us out on our website at noblivest.com. And also, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. Really looking forward to connecting with all of you. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or just want to network. I'm always open to that.
Awesome. And Noblivest is Noblivest. If you're just listening to this, we will, of course, include this all in the show notes as well. Christine, thank you so much. Do appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sam.